So as a Richmond fan who knows the 2025 draft is very, very important for the club, I think it has kind of stabbed me in the heart a little bit to know that there are a couple of massive problems with the draft that is starting to really come out. Again, one of the big ones is a lot of people saying that this draft is actually nowhere near to the level of what previous drafts have been in terms of talent and availability, especially compared to what last year's draft were, but also a lot of reports and news coming out that a lot of this draft actually happens to be compromised with academy and father-son picks, meaning that a lot of players in this draft aren't even available to most teams to, of course, try and select. Now, before we do get into the many problems of the 2025 AFL draft so far, I would just like to say that there's still a decent amount of you guys who watch these videos who are not yet subscribed to the channel. So if you could do me a massive favor and leave a like on this video to let me know you guys enjoy it. Subscribe to the channel for the latest, sports content and news. And I guess without further ado, we'll get straight into it with this big article the AFL revealed called Class of 2025. Clubs bracing for compromised draft. Clubs are bracing for up to 40% of the 2025 AFL draft pool to have ties to clubs through father, sons, and academies. The AFL's decision on draft talent Ollie Greaves' Next Generation Academy NGA status comes as clubs anticipate one of the most compromised draft pools in an explosion of academy players. AFL.com.au revealed on Wednesday Hawthorn had lodged an application to have Eastern Rangers midfielder Greaves, a prospect in this year's draft, eligible for the NGA under his Indigenous background. The Hawks have been working through the application over the past 12 months as the AFL determines its NGA ruling. Granting access would mean the Hawks could match a bid on the big-bodied midfielder at any point of the draft. With Greaves potentially a top 20 prospect heading into the season, it comes on the eve of the 2025 draft crop that has possibly more than 40% of the national draft pool having ties to clubs ahead of the year beginning. Again, the AFL do have a massive problem right now, and it will be addressed in a couple years. I think that we can't expect this to be fixed right now, because at the time making this video, a lot of the academy players go to teams like Gold Coast and GWS, and we got to remember that even though a lot of great players are going to these teams, at the end of the day, it hasn't been a big impact by the academy players on GWS so far, and Gold Coast is still yet to make the 8. So I don't think the AFL are really going to do anything about this until Gold Coast probably start dominating the league in a couple years. But the thing is now, it's actually becoming ridiculous because you've got Victorian teams who really don't need to have academy players at all. It's pretty dumb that these Victorian teams are getting academy players. It's becoming a big issue now because you're seeing teams like Hawthorn being able to get a guy like this just because he's in, their Indigenous program. And yes, it makes sense because it's Hawthorn's program, but it's also Hawthorn, should they be able to have academy picks? I mean, they're a big Victorian market team who don't have players leaving in free agency all the time like teams like Gold Coast and GWS have struggled with. Why do they really need an academy and stuff like that? Again, it also goes on to say that it is among the reasons why clubs last year were willing to trade their future first-round picks out of the 2025 pool into the 2024 trade period, or to use future picks on players, knowing this year's group was heavy on players tied to clubs. The AFL has also known this year was coming, with the league's enhanced draft value index to be introduced, making it more difficult for clubs to take multiple academy players under the updated point system. Again, from what I've heard personally, I don't think this updated point system thing that is supposed to make it harder for these clubs is actually going to be making it harder for these clubs to get these academy players. Again, they're still, I think, going to quite comfortably be able to do it. And yeah, I don't think it's really going to make that much of a difference. Again, We're still going to have to wait and see. It could very well, and you might see more clubs passing. But with teams like Hawthorn eager to try and get these academy players, no, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. But there is more, and it actually goes on to talk about the players that these teams have, like Gold Coast, where the academy will again produce for the Suns with the number 1 pick contender, Zeke Uland. Again, he is ranked number 1, I believe, at the time making this video. It says, while the speed of Dylan Patterson and toughness of Kobe Coulson has also caught the eye, Bo Adinsel, Jai Murray, Cooper Collins, and Max Hudson are other academy prospects who have had recruiters watching their progress. Again, they've got a genuine pool of like 4 to 7 dudes. It's crazy. He says that the Suns have access to Kalani White under academy rules as well, with the son of former Melbourne star Jeff White to decide later this year whether he nominates the father, son of the Demons or the Suns. Make that like 8 guys they've got. Gee whiz, man. It also says, in otherwise a relatively small father-son pool, with Collingwood having first call on Tom McGuan, the son of former Pie Mick, while Richmond having access to Lewis Callaway, son of former Tiger Duncan. Kobe Williams, the son of former Hawks and Essendon forward Mark, will be out to impress too, with Kobe having ties to the Hawks as well as the Western Bulldogs as an NGA player. Charlie Banfield, the son of Premiership Eagle Drew, also qualifies this season for West Coast. Again, I think it's ridiculous that there are also players, and a lot of them, who are father-son and academy tied. What are we legitimately doing here? Like, the father-son makes sense. It's an AFL tradition that has to stay in the game. But why are there guys who are academy and father-son tied? That is ridiculous, man. It is honestly so stupid when you actually say it out loud. The other thing is, I find it funny as a Tigers fan, who most Tigers fans, of course, know we don't really get that much father-son players. And it's really interesting to know that the one year we do have a father-son player, it's very, very hard, apparently, and harder to draft these players now with the point system they're introducing. So I thought that was interesting. It also says that Sydney's academy draft haul looks very promising. Looks a very promising group headlined by Max King, Noah Chamberlain, and Lockie Carmichael, while Brisbane Academy midfielder Dan Annable is the Lions standout prospect, with Isaac Waller also highly rated, while Harrison Bridge and Raphael Jesu put themselves on the radar playing with the Lions Academy last year. Again, why do Sydney and Brisbane, who are dominating the league and are naturally good drafting teams who a lot of players want to play for, why do they have academy players? Like, I understand GWS and Gold Coast, they're newer to the league, they struggle to keep players. Sydney and Brisbane are big powerhouse teams now. Why do they have academy players? Especially considering now they're getting like the best academy players. What world? Why? It also says West Coast starts the year with a promising group of NGA prospects as well, with Wes Wally, Tyler Williams, and Kobe Evans, all having spent time training with the Eagles. We got Ben Wrongdit for Geelong, Jack Eisen for Carlton, Toby Sinema for Melbourne, and Hussein El Archkar for Essendon. All did enough at bottom ages to stake their claims at draftees this season. I swear these names are getting harder for me to pronounce. I don't know. I just can't read. That's possibly true as well. But it says the likes of Goy Giath for Hawthorn, the younger brother. We also got Tyson Gresham for Carlton, brother of Jade. Interesting. Kai Fincher for St Kilda, and Toby Wan for Fremantle are also possible NGA prospects to begin the season. Yeah, there's a lot of guys there. A lot of guys who are going to be potentially going to different teams and whatnot, a part of these academy players. Again, I legitimately read like 30 guys, I swear then. The only thing is, like 10 of them probably won't get drafted, but eventually it's still going to come up. Like, the season hasn't even started yet, and you'll see there'll be a couple guys for like, Gold Coast Academy, GWS Academy, Sydney's, Brisbane's, of course, who legitimately just come out of nowhere and all of a sudden are stars, and they're not even being mentioned here, and they'll just dominate the season. They'll get drafted. So it will probably be more than 40% of this draft will be compromised, and then I think we'll get a massive review of it next season, and the draft will completely change because, yeah, it is getting pretty crazy. I think in a couple years, it will 100% change when Gold Coast probably start dominating, because they've got every elite Queensland young player ever. But of course, we're going to have to wait and see. We're going to have to see how the AFL cooks with this and see how that goes. I'd love to see the father-son stay, but I don't think, I love the NGA programs, but I don't think they should have the rights to draft these players. I think have the programs and have the academies and keep these guys a part of the academies and whatnot, so the game continues to grow, but they don't need to be tied to the clubs. I think it should just be these clubs doing it for, the good of the game. And yeah, I just don't think, because there's so many academy players, there clearly needs to be something happening in the next couple of years, and I'm very personally interested in seeing how they're, of course, going to go about it. But again, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for all the latest sports content and news. Don't forget to comment your thoughts and opinions down below on what do you guys think about the, academy players and the draft and whatnot, how that, of course, all does go. Again, I'd very much like to know. Subscribe to my IRL/vlogging channels, my gaming channels as well. Links for them will be in the description down below. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.